Well, folks, it's official. We're transitioning into Mark Carney's communism. I finished crunching the numbers. Mark Carney won't release which 12 million Canadians get this GST rebate to the tune of $500 million a year in food credits on GST, as well as all these civil society nonprofits, largely owned and operated by liberal and conservative insiders who make wages, folks, in that side of it in the hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And of course, they have tremendous expense accounts. It's pretty sad when we get into Canadian supposed charities. So many are absolutely corrupt. But this video, and in the link of this video, I give you the numbers crunched where I determine which 12 million Canadians get this GST credit. Largely, they didn't pay out into, even in their daily consumption, and a shortfall that has to be made up by the rest of the working Canadian class. Not defined as middle. Canada still to this day can't define middle class. It never has, never will, because they don't matter. They're part of that third class. And it's the illusion of you doing better all the time. But reality is the government sinks you over and over again. A major transition happened over COVID-19 in many countries of the world. Certainly it happened here in Canada, where those who work, aspire to earn more, became the minority population voting base, and we were overtaken by the poverty class. And that is a creation by the government of Canada. It's always been a liberal strategy. It's how they remained in power. Pierre Elliott Trudeau was key instrument in that transition. He was thwarted somewhat through the 90s, finally, even with liberals who had to backtrack somewhat, never really wanting to give it up, but backtracked to try and make and appease that middle class that now officially, as of 2020, they took over an electorate. What do I mean by that? What I mean is Canadians who earn over $60,000 a year, meaning you won't be getting any of these GST breaks on food. All Canadians under that, and this is also could be Canadians who make over 60 of that 12 million, but it's because they're married and the spouse combined puts them both under 120,000 a year to take that GST claim. Now it's a shortfall. And folks, what I presented just earlier this week, very beginning, I think in fact on Monday, I presented a reality crunch numbers of a 2% increase in GST and 15% increase for folks making over 60,000 a year and beyond. You will have to eat that just in order to appease the United States of America and the Canadian federal government making their obligations under NORAD, NATO, and trade, reciprocal trade, free trade. That's what Mark Carney would have to impose on all Canadians to make USMCA fly. Well, that number officially now changes. It's now for us over 60,000 a year, or combined family income under 120,000 a year. You have to pay a whopping 4% increase in GST. So this current 5% GST would have to go up to 9%. Your income tax brackets of folks over 60,000 or family combined 120,000 and onward have to eat a 15% increase in your taxes, which would be about 3% per tax bracket. You're now a minority. The extremely rich and the extremely poor outweigh you electorally now. Mark Carney releasing this GST credit for the poverty class is to win all their votes so he secures a majority forevermore. Folks, we have fallen officially today to communism. I also want to make a point that finally, at least this week now, just 12 hours ago, Canadian media finally acknowledged Quebec's separatism and the fact that Quebec is likely to be out of Canada, securing a major majority this October, and in fact leads Alberta in independence by massive large margins. Quebec is positioned to leave Canada as early as Christmas time under PQ, Parti Québécois, the official separatist party that launched the referendum in 1995 and only lost by 52,000 votes. As it sits today versus 1995, finally media acknowledges the truth and the work I presented to all of you, even though it upsets a lot of Albertans, it's upset a lot of Eastern Canadians. I know, I see my following. People haven't really left me, but they're angry, especially Albertans. I just give the truth. I give it incredible real numbers. It's something I'm very good at. I've had a tremendous success, way over most Canadian pundits, on elections and statistics, faithfully, pretty much since 2017 as I got aggressive with it and using my mathematics in that fashion. I've probably been the closest on almost all provincial and federal elections I've called by very tight margins. I run the formulas. They work very well for me. I like to do that in a lot of things I do. I gave the nature of international law. I gave a formula for how countries navigate that, how successful they will be. And of course, as I said, Canada's an epic failure. I show you in the formula how that happens. I run formulas, I run these analyses, and I see where Canada is. We are transitioning to communism. We have lost. Working Canadians, entrepreneurs, small business owners, you have officially lost. You've lost effectual control of the electorate, meaning you are at the mercy of the wealthy elite Canadian appointed and elected politicians, all of their wealthiest friends through the poverty class. Combined, the rich and the extremely poor together outweigh all working Canadians. We're officially finished. And Mark Carney, with his insiders, his greasy, sleazy, wealthy class of elected and appointed in the upper 3% to 1%, now have control of the electorate through the poverty class. The GST food credit for the 12 million Canadians is that poverty class. When you combine it with the ultra rich and wealthy business owners and large business, all civil societies, which are so many now, non-profits are called, but they're absolutely for profit, defined in Oxford Canadian financial systems. These are all your chartered bankers, all of the public sector. They outweigh us now, private sector and working class, union, non-union Canadians. You're all under that percentage. We're at 19.4%. Those in the poverty and wealthy elite class, they are now over 20%. They defeat you majority now. We have already transitioned into the road of communism, and there is no coming back. You can't vote your way out of this. We can't beat the liberal communism of Canada, which is what it is. what it always was, at least under Pierre Elliott Trudeau, absolutely Justin Trudeau, and Stephen Harper, Pierre Poilievre, and the architect, animal criminal, full-on communist Mark Carney, who's there through all the conservative and absolutely liberal transition. He is the architect. He's the brain. He's the greatest evil Canada's ever seen, and he's come back to run the country, and he's likely to run it for many decades as a supreme dictator. I don't see Mark Carney falling, as all he has to do is rape, pillage, and plunder working class Canadians in that attempt to achieve middle class, meaning welcome to communism. No matter how hard you work, life will never be affordable to you, and you're chasing an ever-increasing inflation that's beyond all measure of wages that you can achieve, meaning you will have to work massive overtime, multiple jobs. You'll have to borrow to subsidize your small and medium businesses, especially in the primary sector. It's a fool's folly. Now, there's small business owners that do well at the time period in the life they're living, but their retirements are in question. Their livability in the long run is in question. So you don't win either side. You can be a working Canadian in organizations of organized labor, whether that's union or association or merit, for example. I'm not sure if merit functions out here in Eastern Canada, but I know out west. But with those benefits and those retirement private plans, that's the trade-off. But what will your retirement be? For contractors, private small business, where will you be in retirement as you're spending the money to live today and live in a higher means? What will your eventual outcome be? It's not good. You will likely join the poverty class, as so many do. And folks, they're a little bit older, the generation ahead of me, they're thinking that their homes and that overvaluation of their homes and property is going to be their retirement fund. I wouldn't bank on it in a communist transition. In a communist transition, everything goes commune, and you're either part of the regime or you get bought out and replaced, because the unaffordability of rising property values and extreme property taxes overtakes you. And I think people don't realize that yet, but they're going to experience it. The mortgage renewals, when you can't meet that income threshold in an ever-increasing inflationary system where your tax burden is to continually grow. We're finished. We're finished as a society, and we're well on our way to the reality of the Soviet Union by leaps and bounds. And in fact, the taxes today Canadians pay today, and many other civil law socialist countries, unitaries, especially European Union, are already over and above what the Soviet Union was in 1989. You've exceeded that, and there's a load limit. You can't tax your way into prosperity. It's just not possible. The numbers don't work out. Who do the numbers work out for? Mark Carney and all his political elected and appointed friends. It works out for them as they liquidate the middle class, if you want to call it that. Canada doesn't even define it because they don't give two shits about it. That's a number one marker, too, of a functioning democracy. How well is your working class doing? Is it defined? In America, it's defined. Clearly, there's a monetary value assigned in America to middle class, and they even assign a minimum standard of living. How much an hour you must earn, and it's reflective in their old age security at the minimum level earning potential of a 40-hour a week minimum wage earning American. And then, of course, overtime on that, mandated in all 50 states. They monetize it, they give it a numerical value, they assign that, and they keep that as the minimum standard in America for all American citizens. You don't get that in Canada. You never have, and you never will. Why? Because you don't matter. You've never mattered. It's the same as it was in England many, many hundreds of years ago as it is today in Canada. King's Court, King's Privy Council, all of it, a fused legislative, executive, judicial branch into one, usurping all of what you think you have with your parliamentary democracy. And again, where you, the working Canadian, are not defined because you don't matter. You're to be liquidated to increase the Crown's wealth, and they will use the poorest of the poor, the serfs, the peasants on the Lord's lands, which are more than half of Canada's limited private property. And if you've missed it in Alberta, the Princess Danielle Smith under Crown Mark Carney and her provincial crown mandated royalties for herself and her regime, UCP, to borrow as they see fit, barrels in kind, all for their wealthy friends, not for Albertans. Albertans are claiming that leaving Canada will save them from taxation without representation. I beg to differ. Go look at your province today. If you want taxation without representation, there's only one way to achieve that. It's called statehood. But don't worry, Albertans that are angry at me today. It's okay. I know you're very angry. I accept that. I take these waves, as so many of my loyalist friends and followers have seen. You'll see the waves. You can be angry at me today, but when Christmas comes this coming year and you all see the results of a lot of what I said, I hope that you all come back to the table for statehood and that you're ready at that point, because life is going to get tough for all Canadians, and I'm still going to be there with my message, with what we're working on. I'm working on something very big right now too that involves the United States of America. I'm trying to build my kite, Thomas's kite story of Niagara and the first bridge between Canada and the United States. When UK terminated all trade relationships with the then pre-Canada, the colony of British North America remaining, and how badly abused those upper and lower Canadians were, and how Ontarians in that time period begged for Ontario, the 51st state, and how USA couldn't do it. But it's okay, folks. I'm working on my kite. I think I have a strong role. It's going to cost me a little bit of money, but it's okay. It's money well spent, and you're all going to get an invite to it. And these times we have to go through these points where people need to get hit hard with reality checks. I'll be there for you. It's okay. Explore what you're doing, but mark my words what you're going to see at Christmas as you watch Quebec sailing away in success and Alberta not being there. It's okay. It's okay. Because we're going to get this statehood thing going, and it's going to go. People just need to suffer. Unfortunately, as sad as that is, people need to see the truth, and they're going to see the truth. And remember, taxation without representation is not just a federal thing. It's absolutely an absolute thing in all provinces and territories in Canada that are epically worse than even the federal government, as bad as that is to say. They're both evil, don't get me wrong, but the provinces are designed much more autocratic and much more evil, as they don't even have constitutions. Read your Section 92, top of the page for provinces. Read Section 91. They both have absolute power over taxation without representation. And the Crown has all of those items. In 91, that's federal powers, which are very limited. In 92, that's all your provinces. So everything outside of 91 that the federal government has on your province, like Alberta, remember, it was all your premiers in all your history that signed that over to the federal government for their glory. And if you do get independence with those same regimes, they're only going to take that authority and have Section 91 and 92 at their disposal. I can tell you again, and I'm going to say this for all Canadians, when you talk to former Supreme Court justices of the United States of America, Republican or Democrat, they will tell you, never get lawyers to make your constitutions. It needs to be done for and by the people. Albertans in succession being led by lawyers in the Crown system, you're going to get, sorry about my words, fucked. Fucked. And it's already been usurped. It's why I don't participate. I already know where it's going. A fool's folly, a distraction, and then an epic failure in numbers. And I hate to say that, but again, I'll be here this Christmas when all the dust is settled and reality's in front of you, and these people realize they've been bamboozled, duped, and even fleeced of even more money, and they're no better off than they were before they started, because they're not ready for the truth. The truth of Canada, the 51st state. The truth that old Donald J. Trump has faithfully rolled out over and over and never changed the messaging. Because he knows they've done all the same work I've done. He's got literally 252 people working on that full time. High minds, Trump administration. Pretty hard to keep up with. But that's the truth. God bless you all. Share, share, share. Get it out to as many as you can. Educate. Because this transition is happening. There's no conservative liberal who's going to get you out of it. If you want to go forward with the United States intact. Otherwise, we can keep playing the Carney game of debt loading, and debt loading, and you're going to continually go poor, 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 when all of a sudden you wake up to being 80% of your income taxed, and you can't even live. You live in squalor. That's the truth of where communism goes. If you don't know this, please reach out to people alive and well who lived through the period of the Soviet Union and got out of it. They'll tell you everything I'm telling you, and they're seeing it too. A lot of them are seeing it. God bless. That's my video. Share, share, share. Get it out there. Bye now.